One name gone cold, one path went thin. Keep your eyes open, we're going in.
Hello, welcome back to my channel. Have we got some story for you today? So buckle up. You all know that every missing person has a story, a family that still waits, friends who still wonder, questions that never get answered. Well, today's story is about a young woman whose disappearance shook her Northern California community. But outside of that community, many people have never even heard her name, which is surprising because this is a very disturbing, very violent, and very fascinating story. And for more than 8 years, the people who love her have been searching for answers. This is the story of Khadijah Rose Britton. Okay, so there's a lot of players in this story. We're going to start with them and then we'll tell you what happened. This is Khadijah Rose Britton. She's from Mendocino County, a little town, which I hope I'm pronouncing right, called Covelo. And that's where she disappeared from. This piece of shit on the underwear of humanity is Neji Tony Phallus the Fourth. And this little horrible woman is involved as well, and her name is Antonia Bautista Dawson. So those are the three players. Let's take a look at Khadijah's story, shall we? She's been missing since February 9th, 2018, again from Covelo, California. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. She's female, she's Native American. Her date of birth is 4/22/1994, so she'd be 32 years old today, but she was 23 when she went missing. She's 5'8", between 150 to 180 pounds. She was wearing a black sweatshirt, a black t-shirt, and blue stretch pants. She has a tattoo of the word, and pardon me again, Waialaki. I have a picture of it, so don't rely on my pronunciation, on her right forearm, and her ears are pierced. Her nickname is Dij, and she's a member of the Round Valley Indian tribes of the Round Valley Reservation. Oh, did I mention? She is another missing Indigenous person, of which there are hundreds and hundreds. So I'm here to make sure she's not just another name that's getting lost in the crowds of Indigenous people that go missing every year. So on February 7th, 2018, she was visiting a friend in the 23,000 block of Airport Road in Covelo when that night, according to a witness, her ex-boyfriend, Neji Tony Phallus IV, and his new girlfriend, guess who? Antonia Bautista Dawson, pulled up in a black Mercedes. Phallus was armed with a small Derringer pistol. He went to the door of the house and demanded that Britton come out and speak to him. A physical altercation ensued, and Phallus chased Britton around the car, which was being driven by Dawson. Phallus hit Britton and shoved her into the car, and Dawson sped away with them all inside, and Britton has never been heard from again. Now, Phallus's relationship with Britton when she was his girlfriend was always tumultuous and he was known to be abusive, and they had recently broken up. He also has a history, here's a big surprise everybody, of domestic violence charges related to other women. Not to mention a whole huge stack of drug-related felony charges over the years. So about 2 or 3 weeks before Britton's disappearance, which would be about early to mid-January of 2018, Fallis had attacked her with a hammer and attempted to abduct her in an incident very similar to her later kidnapping. Britton filed a complaint against Fallis for this, and due to his prior criminal history, he could have gone to prison if convicted. However, only hours before her disappearance, Britton went to the police and said she didn't want to pursue charges. How many of you are slapping your foreheads over this? Her family believes Fallis coerced her into doing this. The witness to Britton's February 7th kidnapping didn't come forward with their story for several days, not until after Britton's family realized she was missing. 10 days after she was reported missing, Fallis was charged with assault, kidnapping, first-degree burglary, threats to commit a crime resulting in death or great bodily injury, attempted murder, and being a felon in possession of a firearm and ammunition in Britton's disappearance. He pleaded not guilty and refused to cooperate with the investigation into Britton's disappearance. In June of 2018, so this is about 4 months after the kidnapping, the authorities were forced to drop most of the charges against him for lack of evidence. His bail was reduced and he was released not long afterwards on bond, and although he still faced the charges of possession of gun and ammunition. In August, Bautista Dawson was arrested for felony suspicion of harboring or concealing a wanted felon, who was, guess who? Fallis. In October 2018, Fallis pleaded no contest to being a felon in possession of a firearm, and Bautista Dawson pleaded no contest to being an accessory to a felony. Fallis was sentenced to 4 years in prison, and Bautista Dawson to 18 months in jail and 18 months of supervision. She was ordered to have no contact with Fallis and to spend 6 months in an inpatient drug rehabilitation program. Both the police and Britton's family believe she was murdered, and Fallis remains the prime suspect in her case, and authorities are still looking for her body. As a matter of fact, just a few months ago, a body was found, and people who are keeping Britton's name out there were very excited, and they're still wondering if that might not be her that has been found. But as of right now, we don't know that. So, Ms. Bautista Dawson, who was 21 years old at the time, was charged with aiding the felon, Neji Fallis, in hiding several firearms, and was sentenced to 1.5 years in Mendocino County Jail, to be followed by 1.5 years of supervised probation. At her sentencing, the judge said the sentence would come with a number of additional requirements, including 6 months of mandated residential drug treatment to be served after her jail time, and no contact with Fallis either directly, through technology, or through a third party. Originally, she wasn't going to be sentenced with any jail time after she pled no contest to the accomplice charges in October, but she failed to appear for her first scheduled judgment and sentencing in mid-December, so she had to do jail time. It wound up in 2019. She was sentenced to that jail sentence. And Fallis was sentenced for his part in the kidnapping on December 4th of 2019. However, Bautista Dawson, who's been romantically linked to Phallus, did not show for her initial sentencing, as I said, and so a no bail warrant was issued. And she turned herself in to Round Valley Tribal Police several days later and was in jail until her sentencing, and then afterwards, of course. So let's take a look at Neji, everyone's favorite gentleman of the day, of the month, of forever. Okay, so we all know what happened in 2018 and this everybody sentenced in 2019. Well, in February of this year, guess who raised his ugly mug again? A Covelo man. I'm reading this from the Mendocino Voice. The original items about Khadijah's being missing was from FBI.gov. So, Mendocino Voice, Dateline, Sydney Fishman, dated February 20th, 2026, so that's this year, several years after the 2018 kidnapping. A Covelo man who is a person of interest in the high-profile disappearance of Round Valley Indian Tribes member Khadijah Britton 8 years ago, has been charged with 4 felonies in a separate case with a shooting that injured a man in November of 2025. So he's, once again, a felon doing violent things in possession of a firearm and ammunition. Neji Phallus, who's now 45, was arrested by the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office in late January and booked into the Mendocino County Jail for his alleged involvement in a shooting in Covelo on November 18th. According to Mendocino County Sheriff's spokesman Captain Quincy Cromer, a 28-year-old man had arrived at Adventist Health Howard Memorial, a hospital in Willits, with a gunshot wound to his foot. Earlier in the day, on November 18, 2025, the victim was visiting a residence on Airport Road in Covelo to collect money he was owed. About 10 minutes later, a vehicle arrived. The victim got into the vehicle and spoke with the driver, who was, guess who? Yes, our friend Neji Phallus. After a short period of time, an argument ensued, and Phallus exited the vehicle with a firearm. After a struggle between Phallus and the victim, the gun discharged, striking the victim in the foot. We don't believe it was accidental. If there is an intent to shoot someone and you're struggling over a gun, it's still attempted murder. It comes down to him brandishing and displaying the gun against the victim, Cromer said in a recent interview. Phallus has been charged with 4 felonies: attempted murder, assault with a firearm, possession of a firearm by a felon, blah, 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 and transportation of a controlled substance, as well as potential sentencing enhancements. One more time with feeling, everybody. Okay, so what I'm going to do is interrupt here and ask you to do me a favor. My channel is doing okay, but it's very slow, and I am trying to do hard work and research on behalf of victims who don't have a voice, people who are missing, and Jane and John Does whose bodies have been found but don't have a name. I want to ask you all a favor. Take a moment after you finish this video to like and subscribe to my channel. Those 2 things cost you nothing but a couple of seconds and mean the world to me. So I would appreciate it if you would take the time to do that, so my channel will grow and maybe I can get, a better computer system and so on, and make my videos stand out more and get more attention and help the victims and the families. Thank you. I appreciate it. So, back to the subject at hand. Vallis has been investigated for the disappearance of Britton, a woman who was last seen at her home in Covelo on, guess where? Airport Road, everybody. In February 2018. According to Cromer, Vallis is still a person of interest in that case. The shooting case against Vallis was set to return to court on February 27th, 2026 to potentially set a date for a preliminary hearing. So I don't know what happened about that. And, I hope he got some more time. I hope he's behind bars again where he belongs forever. But I have to say he's, innocent of anything that happened to Britton until he's proved guilty. But hello, it sure looks like we have enough to presume that he'd be found guilty if they ever have enough to get him to trial. So, over the years, investigators have continued following leads. Search warrants have been served, as we've seen. Searches have taken place in remote parts of Mendocino County, where, once again, they have recently found a body, but that body's not been identified yet. Tips continue to come in, but Khadijah has never been found. Her case remains unsolved. For her family, every birthday, every holiday, every passing year is another reminder that someone they love is still missing. Someone knows, come on, what happened to Khadijah Rose Britton? Maybe like Antonia Bautiste Dawson, perhaps? Hint, hint. Someone has information that could finally give her family the answers they've waited years to hear. Even the smallest detail could matter. I said that over and over again, and I'll continue saying that. If you have any information about Khadijah's disappearance, please contact the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office. Their number is in the description box below, or your local law enforcement agency. If you're watching this video, I'd also like to ask you one more favor. Please share it. Cases like Khadijah's stay alive when people continue talking about them, because every share, every view, every conversation could reach the one person who knows the missing piece of the story. Once again, I'm Betty, and this is Voices Left Behind, where I tell the stories that deserve to be heard. Until next time, let's keep searching. Thank you for watching.
If you know a thing, say it now. One small